Hey everybody, welcome to week 3. First want to start out by saying great job last week. I was really impressed with all of your podcasts and your blogs. It seems like everybody, or at least the majority of you, were able to create your blog and get a really good podcast together. So excellent work, and let's kind of keep rolling into week 3 here. What we're going to be doing this week is kind of taking what you did last week with your podcast, fairly simple podcast with images, your voice, music, sound effects, those kinds of things, and replacing the images component with video. So what you're going to be doing is creating a podcast that has video, your voice, whether it's within the video or added after the fact, some sound effects, music, that kind of thing. So that biggest difference being video. And whether you're using GarageBand or Movie Maker, whatever it might be, adding video should be the same process as adding images was. So in GarageBand, instead of dragging images into your podcast window, you're dragging a video file. So I don't anticipate that it will be too much more difficult, but if you have some issues, send me an email, post a question to the Moodle site, and I'll be sure to help you out. The other piece we're going to be doing that some of you did last week as well is linking your podcast to your blog post. And I'll show you how to do that here in a moment. And then a short forum response of some sort, discussion, question, that kind of thing. So I've got a couple how-tos I'd like to go through with you. First, how to connect to the Western servers via remote desktop. Second, how to save your podcast to your public HTML drive. Many of you were able to simply upload your video file to the Moodle site, or you might have linked it to your blog post, or you might have linked it to YouTube. But so there are a number of ways to do that. What I'm going to show you is how to do it with the public HTML in case that's a route you want to go. And then finally, how to link your podcast from that public HTML to your blog post. Okay. So let's get started. First thing, how to connect to the Western servers via remote desktop. So if you're here on campus using a Mac, you'll follow these steps. I'll show you how to do it from a PC or a Mac at home. Connecting to the remote desktop can be done a number of ways. So primarily, you'll be using this process if you're trying to access your files here on campus or the programs available on our Western servers from home. So if you're on a Mac, what you're going to need is a program called Remote Desktop Connection. Go ahead and quit this so I can show you the entire process. So Remote Desktop Connection, if you don't already have it, simply Google Remote Desktop Connection for Mac. You can download it from Microsoft, totally free, takes a couple minutes. Once you do have it, go ahead and open it up. And you'll get this window asking for the computer address that you want to access. All you have to do is type in ts.wou.edu. Then click connect. Then click connect one more time. And it'll give you a standard Windows login screen, so simply type in your Western credentials here. Click OK. And it logs you right in. You'll probably get this blank desktop when you first log in. Let me make it a little bigger here so we can see. Okay. So now we have access to your files here on campus if you've saved in the H drive, for example. But you also have access to the various programs installed on these servers. The Adobe programs like Photoshop, Dreamweaver, those types of programs are all here. As well as FileMaker, lots of different stuff. So depending on what you're needing, you'll likely find something in here. So that's how you access the remote servers from a Mac. From a PC, for you PC users at home, click on the Start menu on your computer, All Programs, then Accessories, and you'll find the Remote Desktop Connection in here. It might be embedded in one of these other sub files, but you should find it. And it's the same process. Click on Remote Desktop Connection, type in ts campus.wou.edu, click connect, type in your username and password, and so on. So that's how you access the servers here on campus via remote desktop connection. Now, the next how-to I'd like to show you is saving podcasts to your public HTML or your P drive. Now, if you're working from home and you want to access the P drive and put something in there, you're going to have to go the remote desktop route, whether you're on a Mac or a PC. If you're on campus, the computers here on campus should automatically connect to the P drive, making it fairly straightforward. But from home, simply log in to remote desktop, get the Windows Server screen up and running like I have here, and then go to Start, My Computer, and then down here under Network Drives, we have our public HTML or P drive right here. So I can double click to go in there. So what I have are a list of files and folders that I have in my P drive. And the P drive makes whatever you store in here available online. So you'll notice here I have a file called squirrels.m4a. Those of you who attended the campus meeting, that was my kind of test podcast that I made about squirrels. So if I then open a browser and I type in the address wou.edu/tilde, this little squiggly, Hamlin W, that's my username, it brings up my public HTML drive. And so what we can see then is the files that are here in my public HTML window, just by navigating those various network drives, is the same as the list of files here that I see in my browser. So I have Squirrels M4A here, and I have Squirrels M4A in my browser. So if I'm on my browser and I click that file, it opens that podcast here in my browser. Similarly, if I was to open any of these files, depending on the file type, it would either open in the browser or download a Word document, whatever it might be in there. So that makes it very easy to then link to this video, whether I'm posting a link to my blog or posting a link on Moodle, whatever it might be. So that's how you access the P drive via the remote desktop connection. Now, if you're trying to put your podcast into the P drive from home, not only are you going to have to log into the remote desktop connection to access the P drive, but you're likely going to need to either email the podcast to yourself, so you can then open your email here in the remote desktop connection, then put it in the P drive, or upload that podcast to some other online site, whether it's YouTube or some other video sharing site, then download it once you've connected here, and then put it in your P drive. However you want to do it is just fine. If you're more comfortable simply uploading your podcast to YouTube and then linking to YouTube, that works as well. So that's how you access the P drive, and then you would simply put your podcast in the P drive to make it active here online. So our next how-to is linking a podcast to your blog. So I'm going to open my blog now. Here's my Bill's WOU course blog. I'm going to create a new post. I'm going to call this post maybe all about squirrels. Whatever your post might be, come up with an appropriate title. Down here in the main body of the post, I'm going to probably write some sort of description about the podcast. Maybe who the target audience is. Maybe how I made the podcast. And whatever else you want to write about your podcast. Now, the next thing to do is link your podcast. So I'm going to click on the link button. Up here at the top, text to display. So I want maybe click here to watch the Squirrel podcast. The web address is the URL where that particular podcast is online. So I have this one in my P drive, so I'm going to go back here to my P drive, click on the Squirrels podcast, go ahead and pause it so we can hear, and then up here is the URL for that particular podcast. So I'm going to highlight it, copy, go back into my blog, and then here in my web address I'm going to paste that URL. Down here I have a couple more options, maybe open in a new window, that kind of thing. Click OK, and it linked that text in my blog post. So if I'm all done, I'm going to click Publish, and I can go and view this particular blog post all about squirrels. I have a description about my podcast here. You can even throw in some pictures in your description if you want. But then I have a link. Click here to watch the Squirrel podcast. When I click that, it opens up in the browser. So that's one way to link a podcast. The other way would be to simply link to the YouTube address where you have uploaded it, and that might be the more straightforward route rather than trying to log into the P drive and things like that, especially if you're working off campus. If you're on campus, the P drive is a fairly easy process, but if you're off campus, feel free to use YouTube for the time being to link your podcast. And so what you're going to be doing this week then is, for your assignment, you're going to be posting a link to your blog. So when we click that, it'll take us to your blog post where we can read the description of your podcast, read a little bit about how you made it, any other relevant information you want to provide, but then we can also click a link that will take us to the podcast itself, whether it's going to simply take us to YouTube or to the P drive, whatever works for you. There are also ways to embed your podcast into your blog post itself so it doesn't take us somewhere else, but we'll talk about that next week. For the time being, simply post a link to your blog on our Moodle page to quote-unquote turn in your assignment. There will also be a small forum discussion for you to participate in, but that should do it for this week. So any questions, feel free to send me an email, give me a call, post a question to the Moodle page, anything like that, and I'll be sure to help you out. Great job last week. Keep up the good work, and I will talk to you all soon.